Today I'm going to give you my ranking of all the deluxe resorts at Walt Disney World. So I have stayed in all of the resorts at Walt Disney World, including the deluxes, multiple times, and so I have formed some opinions on them. The tricky thing about the deluxes in particular is that they all have a lot of pros and cons. So I think that different people are obviously going to have different rankings, but based on my own criteria, which include, personal preferences as well as dining options, location, theming, and price, I have put together a list of my favorites, although they all have things to love about them. For the purposes of this ranking, I'm going to use 8 different deluxe resorts, not counting the Star Cruiser, because let's face it, it's in a category all on its own. So we're going to just do the other 8 that were built before the Star Cruiser came along earlier this year. Coming in at number 8 for me is the Grand Floridian Resort. And this is a tough one for me because I kind of like nice stuff. I like bougie things. I tend to like fancy resorts and fancy dining. But for me, the Grand Floridian Resort being the most expensive at Walt Disney World just isn't worth the money. And that is because the accommodations, the theming, the service just don't quite live up to it for me. However, people that stay there obviously get the huge perk of being just a monorail stop away and a walkway away from Magic Kingdom, which is fantastic. And it is beautiful. So there's that. My personal preference is to save my money and visit the Grand Floridian Resort, which I do almost every single trip because I like the shops there. I love the dining there. And it's just a fantastic place to be, especially during the holidays. So I will keep my resort budget down and just make visits to the Grand Floridian Resort. It comes in at number 8. Coming at number 7 is Boardwalk Inn, which is the very first resort I ever stayed at Walt Disney World. The tricky part about the Boardwalk for me is that there are other resorts that are better that are nearby in the same budget, and the Boardwalk itself has some downsides for me. One of those is that it hasn't been updated in years. Disney is in the process of working on that, so I know that will change. But the other thing that has been a true fact about it since I stayed there the very first time is that most of the resort amenities like dining are outside. And so I just find that really inconvenient. If you want to throw on some flip-flops and run down and get a drink, refill your mug, get a snack, whatever, you have to go outside. So if it's raining or if it's hot, you have to go outside and the public is out there, where I prefer to stay under the same roof to run down and get a snack and just return to my room. So the Boardwalk for me, outdated, inconvenient dining, puts it at number 7. Coming at number 6, and this might be one of the most controversial on the list for me, is Wilderness Lodge. Wilderness Lodge is a beautiful space, and the people that love it really, really love it. Personally, I prefer other ones more, which we'll get into after this one. Wilderness Lodge a lot of it is outdated. The rooms to me are dark and small, and they just don't appeal to me personally. However, they do have some great on-site dining, including storybook dining, which is worth a visit, even if you're not staying there. And I love that you can have a quick service meal along the water, which is incredibly convenient. But again, I would rather visit and do those things rather than stay there. But absolutely nothing wrong with the Wilderness Lodge, especially at Christmas, where it is very beautiful and very Christmassy and cozy. But for me, the other ones are a little bit better. And at number 5, I have the Yacht Club Resort. And again, I really think this is a great resort, but it comes down to a matter of personal preference. It is a darker theme. It's just a different vibe than I would prefer during a Disney World vacation. However, I love that everyone that stays there gets a balcony or a patio, and that it does skew a little bit more adult, and most of my trips nowadays are more adult, so there is that. But I just like its next door neighbor, which you know which one that is, a little bit better. So if I'm gonna pay the same amount, then I'm gonna choose to stay there to have a similar amenities and location, but with a theme that I like a little bit better. However, people that are in all adult groups who like the theming of the Yacht Club, nothing wrong with it. And I can see how it might be at the top of some other people's lists. Coming in at number 4 is Animal Kingdom Lodge. And this list is getting really tricky because Animal Kingdom Lodge is actually one of my very favorite resorts, especially for the money, because in the deluxe category, it's one of the least expensive. And to have such a gorgeous resort with amazing dining and access to the animals, I think it is a great bang for the buck. I just like the location of some of the others better, because they have easier access to a park or two. But Animal Kingdom Lodge, especially if you have a car or if you want a break from the parks, is probably going to be toward the top of your list. And sometimes it is at the very top of mine, depending on the purpose of the trip. But Animal Kingdom Lodge comes in at number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3 is the Polynesian Resort. So this one is an iconic one that's been around since Disney World was started. And so it has the history there. It also has a very convenient location because you can obviously get to Magic Kingdom with the monorail right there, and it's an easy walk over to the Epcot monorail. So 2 parks via monorail is really convenient, especially if you have a stroller or if you have an ECV or wheelchair, you can wheel right on, which is really nice. It also just has that sort of, it's a retro vibe, but beachy, so it's relaxing, but it's retro. It's part of the history, great location. I like the new rooms. The refurbished rooms are fantastic. I think they've done those really tastefully, but the biggest downside here is the price. You cannot stay there and get away with a very inexpensive budget. You really have to be able to afford it. And so for that reason, I don't stay there very often, but when I do, I tend to love it because it has a lot of things going for it. That comes in at number 3. And at number 2 is the Beach Club Resort. So I have talked about the Boardwalk and the Yacht Club, and I said there's something nearby that's a little bit better, and obviously that is the Beach Club. So the Beach Club Resort is the one closest to Epcot. I happen to love the theming there. It smells good in the lobby. It's light and airy. I love that it has the amazing pool and good on-site dining options, as well as access to everything that's at the Yacht Club and the Boardwalk. I just really like the location. You can also take a 15 or so minute walk to get to Hollywood Studios. You also have easy access to the Skyliner and the boats. So I just think it has a lot going for it, and it makes trips a little bit more relaxing when you can get to 2 parks so easily, as well as have that relaxing pool for some break time when you're not in the parks. That is number 2. And coming in at number 1 is the Contemporary Resort. I have some personal history with the Contemporary. When I was a kid and we stayed in Kissimmee, we were in the monorail, which goes right through the Contemporary, and I thought that's where all the fancy people are. That's where they get to stay. And so when I started being able to stay at the Contemporary, it did have that emotional thing of like, oh, now I'm staying here. How lucky am I? But also is one of the original resorts. It was there when Walt Disney World was built, and it has walking access to get to Magic Kingdom, which is amazing. I happen to love the dining at the Contemporary, with the California Grill being one of my very favorite restaurants in all of Walt Disney World, as well as Chef Mickey's being one of my favorite character meals. It also has Steakhouse 71, which has been a great addition. So just dining wise, a lot going for it. The monorail's going right through it, and so if you're a transportation enthusiast like I am, that never gets old. I also just think like having a view of the fireworks at night is a fantastic perk. So there's a lot going for it. It is not cheap. So like I mentioned on the Polynesian, it is not cheap. However, to make it a little bit more affordable, they do have the garden wing rooms, which are in shorter buildings right next to the main tower. And so although you don't have the views of the fireworks from there because you're not, you know, on a balcony high up in the air, you still do have the very easy access to the dining and the monorail and walking access to Magic Kingdom. So there are ways to make it a little less expensive by staying in those rooms, and they have the great theming that the Contemporary rooms do as well in the main tower. So I think that for most people, staying at the Contemporary is going to be a great experience for all of the dining, access to Magic Kingdom, view kind of reasons. And so for that reason, it is number 1. That wraps up my list. I know that everyone is going to have a little different opinions, but I am curious what is on the top of your list and why. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Thanks for watching.